Thank you so much, and thank you to Ben and his panelists. A fascinating session there on skills and leadership for a digital future. And time now to welcome our next panel here at the India Global Forum on reinventing success in the gig economy. And just before we start, just to give you a bit of perspective, the gig economy is rapidly gaining traction worldwide and was projected to exceed 450 billion US dollars this year, with the UAE and India very much being some of the key players in this as well. Right, so to tell us a little bit more and to tackle this topic on gigging for success, please give a very warm welcome to Nour Hassan, the CEO of Tarjama, who's with us here today. A very warm welcome to Nour Hassan. And please give a very warm welcome to our next panelist, Khalid Abou Kassem, the founder and CEO of Gooru Group. A very warm welcome. Wonderful to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us. And yes, gigging for success. Great topic, this one. So I wanted to kick things off first and foremost with you, Nour. I wanted to do a bit of scene setting in terms of what's happening here in the UAE, because the UAE's gig economy is set to grow at a compound annual growth rate of about 17% in the coming years. Freelancers, consultants, and part-time workers now make up around 10% of the UAE's total workforce, which is actually quite an impressive number. So give us a landscape overview and some of the key areas where you're seeing growth.
Thank you so much for having me. So if we look at global statistics, the expectations based on the McKinsey reports and all these reports coming out, by 2027, they expect 50% of workforce to be doing freelance. And if we look at today from talent acquisition, you will notice that lots of employees today want to do smaller tasks, not long-term commitments, and they want to change jobs. They want to do more than one job, more than one assignment. For them, it's learning. It's learning a new skill, multi-income, flexibility, work-life balance. So we're seeing that already. And this is why I launched the platform 6 years ago, specifically for that reason. When I launched it, it was probably premature to the region. People did not feel that they want to freelance. Everybody wanted the full-time job. And now I'm seeing it shifting, and I'm seeing companies want actually less employees on their payroll and more freelancers, more flexible, let's say, consultants instead of full-timers.
So we're going to, take a look at the future of this and where you think this is headed as well in just a moment. But Khalid, great to have you here. Now, you're based out of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is that right? Now, I was reading some really impressive figures in terms of Saudi. My goodness. Yeah. Over in Saudi, registered freelancers in the kingdom surged by 157% from 2020 to 2023. I don't know what the figure is for this year. So give us an overview of what's happening in the growth areas as well.
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. So the gig economy is still new for the MENA region, specifically for Saudi. It's probably older as an industry for the UAE and Dubai, primarily because of the workforce mindset, right? So a few years back in Saudi, we didn't have many of the technical positions and the roles that are available today. The tech scene was extremely different. It was still at premature stages. And so obviously comparing Saudi today and the ecosystem there with the one that it was, a few years back, it's completely different. And so what that caused and created is a surge in, the gig economy specifically, because all of a sudden there's a lot of those technical positions that, the market is still not ready, is still not ripe to kind of like deliver and to give to the companies. And so what happened was, we saw that surge. We saw a few platforms. We saw Ureed expanding in Saudi and, being more accessible to employers and to freelancers itself. We still don't have disclosed numbers, but you just shared a metric on the growth and what does that reflect. But what I know for a fact is that in Saudi you would find quite a lot of frequency of people who have a primary full-time position, and then especially with the Gen Z's, a kind of workforce, and then they would take on about 20% of their week's vacancy to other, jobs or freelancing opportunities. So that's kind of the trend that we're seeing now in the kingdom.
I was going to ask as well, do you think this is very much a generational thing? Is it for the next generation? Is this the next evolution of how we're going to see work? And do you think, do you think companies might even operate without these traditional employees entirely? Do you think that's something that we could see in the future, Nour?
I think it is definitely a generation, and it's already the evolution of technology. It's not only a generation. If we look at the work before versus the work now, the number of hours required, the skills, we're seeing already a huge shift in everything. And if you look at what do employees want today, they want to learn something new. There's an element of instant gratification with this generation that we want it and we want it now, and we want to jump from one place to the other fast. They get bored. And that's because the technology is evolving. So they feel after a couple of years in one place, we've learned everything. This is great for us. We want to jump on the next thing. And post-COVID, we started seeing more this work from home, work-life balance. I want to control my hours. So I work with lots of consulting companies, and I already see it post-COVID. Most of consultants do not want to go back to the old, every week we're on a flight, 5 days, and then we're back. No, now we want to choose the client, we want to choose the assignment, we want to choose the days and the hours. And if you talk to employers have a problem today with employees when workload dips. So that's a discussion I've had with multiple people, like, what do we do with a designer or a marketeer sitting in our office in the summer where we don't have work? Is there a way where eventually we could share that employee with other entities? So there are discussions that are happening already on even leadership, policymakers, on the freelance visa in the UAE is something already that happened a few years back, is because people need this and employers need that sense of flexibility. I wouldn't say it will cancel completely the in-house full-time capability. It's going to be a hybrid between both. And I would say, based on all the statistics, it's going to be probably 50-50 in the coming maybe 5-6 years. What happens next, we honestly don't know. But it's if you look at the technology today, you need an agency to do stuff for you. Now you have the agents coming in AI to do stuff, so it's canceling the agency model. So maybe if we think of the AI evolution in business, I do believe that there's a lot of companies today, the way they do business is going to transform and change, which will impact employees indirectly.
But however, there is, of course, with anything positive and different and disruptive, there are always going to be different types of challenges. So what do we need to do when it comes to sort of workers' rights, legal protection, the different sort of changing nature of employment relationships and things like that? How do you address those different types of challenges? And what would you like to see in terms of protection for this type of workforce as well?
I mean, from our end, our platform employs different type of gig workers, teachers, private tutors. That's what our marketplace offers. To us, we've maintained, obviously their protection through employment agreements or contracts, depending on the type of engagement that we have with them. Our gig economy is kind of more concentrated than it is an open marketplace. But we obviously maintain that with various guarantees and various protection clauses that we add in the contracts, and that's the best practice that we follow. Obviously, it would be different, I'm assuming, in other freelancing platforms. But yeah, to the question, that's what we're doing today with the teacher.
Perfect. Because that's the thing. It's like it's one to sort of go out and do your own thing and have the work-life balance, but you need this sort of like future long-term protection at the same time. I mean, I'm a freelancer myself, so I completely understand. But also, I wanted to talk a little bit, you spoke about AI very briefly just then. So are there any sort of new types of skills, and what type of upskilling and reskilling do you think that these types of freelancers are going to need within this new era of AI? Maybe that's to both of you, actually, yeah.
Absolutely. So I think everybody across the board, whether freelancer or full-timer, today they're required to learn the new AI, right? And they need to learn some skills. So for example, some jobs we know for a fact that AI is going to somehow I wouldn't say replace, but maybe disrupt in a certain way. Their input is going to be much more minimal. The AI will do 90% of the job, and you need to do 10%. So what do you do with the rest of your time, and how do you gain more income? Because let's say, for example, if we take translators or content writers using Gen AI or machine translation engine, and the workload is going to drop to 30% instead of 100%, and then the pay will be less. So that means you need to learn a new skill, and probably a new skill maybe in the same language space could be data annotation labeling, something prompt engineering, something that you can learn within your capabilities. And it's the same with radiologist or with paralegal or certain jobs that technology and AI is going to replace. And I think if you look today at the skill gap has been always a problem, even pre-AI. Now it's even bigger, wider, and deeper because the technology is so fast and we're unable to keep up. So lots of companies, I look at Microsoft, Google, and all these big giant companies doing all these reskilling programs for free, pushing them for people on top of government entities. And I think in every single company, there has to be a unit responsible for reskilling in the AI space, depending on what needs do you have. And it's not only reskilling, it's using the technology. Lots of people today, when the way they use or interact even with ChatGPT is like a search, but in a different way. But there's much more to this technology that can be done today.
Completely. So Khalid, what's your take in terms of what this sort of demographic, the gig economy needs to do in terms of learning and reskilling and upskilling, especially with all this new type of technology, especially AI coming into the market?
I mean, just by looking into numbers, you mentioned 450 billion. 5 years ago, this number was approximately a little more than $200 billion. The market size globally was almost less than 50% what it is today. And obviously, that's been accelerated by COVID and all of that. The projections and the reports, what's publicly shared is that this industry is going to continue growing. My personal take on this is that the smarter the gig worker is with utilizing AI tools, the more demand they are able to efficiently manage. And so if this industry is growing and is going to continue growing, as mentioned by the CAGR rate earlier, then as a freelancer, as a gig worker, how will I be able to differentiate myself and utilize the AI tools that are already available online to take on more clients? And that's basically what would distinguish freelancers, because that's also becoming an issue nowadays. How can I distinguish freelancers? I have all those features that allow me to differentiate and compare, etc. But I think it's the efficiency of deliverables, it's the quality of the deliverables, which can highly be leveraged by AI tools, ChatGPT, or obviously more technical tools than search tools. So yeah, that's how I think freelancers in the gig economy can actually be riding the wave of what's happening while we're still exploring and understanding what will AI do to existing jobs, for example.
Exactly, and everyone's in every single one of these events I do. Everyone's like, "Oh, is AI going to take over our jobs?" And the answer is always like, "No, the person that can master AI is the person that's going to take your job, basically." Yeah. And it's always going to be a co-pilot, and we're always going to be in control and things like that. But yeah, it's always
still too early to assess. Yeah, I think we still need like a few more years for to basically uncover what AI is actually doing and how is it disrupting specific industries. But yeah, we've already started seeing like incidents and use cases where AI is actually helping you deliver way more in a more efficient way in less time and less consumption, less energy. So yeah.
Really interesting. So what sort of potential do you think the gig economy holds going into the sort of next 10 years? I mean, we've seen so much growth already. Do you think it's really going to sort of take off from here?
I think we're going to see exponential growth moving forward, not the same growth we've seen. It's going to grow even faster because of the technology, because you're going to require different skills and you're going to require less number of employees as full-timers, and people are going to move towards that. So the speed of the technology evolution and the speed of where companies need to evolve faster, and the fact that everybody needs to look after efficiency, cost, and all of that. So that means you need to move people around from one place to the other. And I feel that the way forward is going to be more, I would say, freelance-based, more consulting, more part-timers than full-timers. And I've seen it already. My discussions with most of my clients are, can we look at staff augmentation for X, Y, and Z, but we don't want full-timers.
So interesting. Well, what's your take on that? Do you think the gig economy is going to take over?
I mean, again, like just looking into the numbers and the market, obviously there is potential growth, but more so than that, in our region, I think it's going to expand even further and larger than other markets because awareness is there, adoption is there, technology is there as well, which is very important, and the service providers are also extremely there, connected all over the MENA region, right? For the MENA, it's way easier probably than other markets because we speak the same language. We have a huge population, and so you can get connected with freelancers and experts from all over, and that's just talking regionally, let alone internationally. In our marketplace also, we've seen that growth happening over the last 4 years specifically. We've went from, and obviously all of that depends on the demand, but we've went from 15, 20 teachers who were teaching approximately 50 to 60 students to almost 850 teachers today. So that also growth rate tells you a lot about, and that's only one vertical in the gig economy, teachers, let alone other positions that are filled within that industry. So yeah, the journey is pretty exciting ahead for this economy, and I think the region again is just getting started with that.
Really exciting time ahead. I'm glad I'm in a good position as a freelancer I am now. Then it's going to take over.
Should be ready.
Brilliant, I'll be ready. But thank you so much. Sadly, as always, we run out of time, but a really fascinating discussion. And any other further questions, please do make sure to speak to our panel. In the meantime, let's hear it for Nour and Khalid. Thank you.